Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Shimuji Baba ki Jai. reading a passage. The passage is called The Basis of Awareness. Expand enlightenment, and the mind is always calm. Go along with things, and consciousness runs at a gallop. I wish to be rich in enlightenment, though personally poor, generous with virtue, though emotionally aloof. Here I am thus every day, thus all the time. But tell me, what is thus? Try to express it outside of discriminatory consciousness, intellectual assessments, and verbal formulations. This reality is not susceptible to your intellectual understanding. Now, those who think, attend, and reflect all have some intellectual understanding. But then, when they turn back to examine their own eyes and think of the mind that thinks, at this point, why do people unknowingly say, it has never been blue, yellow, red, or white? It has no appearance, no form. I tell you, this is what I call talk. It is not your original mind. How can you think of your original mind? How can you see your own I? When you look inward, furthermore, there is no seeing subject. When you look inward, furthermore, there is no seeing subject. Some people swallow this in one gulp, so their eye of insight opens wide, and they immediately arrive at their homeland. When you are looking inward, furthermore, there is no seeing subject. Some people swallow this in one gulp, so their eye of insight opens wide, and they immediately arrive at their homeland. How can people nowadays reach the point where there is no seeing and no hearing? Everything is always there. You see people, houses, and all sorts of forms, like boiling water bubbling. When you were infants, you also heard sounds and saw forms, but you didn't know how to discriminate. When you were infants, you also heard sounds and saw forms, but you didn't know how to discriminate. Once you came to the age of reason, then you listened to discriminatory thinking, and from that time on have suffered a split between the primal and the temporal. Once you came to the age of reason, then you listened to discriminatory thinking, and from that time on have suffered a split between the primal and the temporal. At this point, it is inevitably hard for people to restore natural order, even if they want to. Those who attain enlightenment do not see walking when they walk, do not see sitting when they sit. That is why the Buddha said, the eyes seeing forms is equivalent to blindness. The ears hearing sounds is equivalent to deafness. How can we say we are as if blind and deaf? When we hear sound, there is no sound to be heard. When we see form, there is no form to be seen. What we see and hear is all equivalent to an echo. What we see and hear is all equivalent to an echo. It is like seeing all sorts of things in a dream. Is there all that when you wake up? If you say yes, yet there's only the blanket and pillow on the bed. If you say no, yet all those things are clearly registered in your mind and you can tell what they were. If you say yes, yet there's only the blanket and pillow on the bed. If you say no, yet all those things are clearly registered in your mind and you can tell what they were. The same is true of what you see and hear now in broad daylight. So it is said, what can be seen by the eye, heard by the ear, can be studied in the scriptures and treatises, but what about the basis of awareness itself? How do you study that? So it is said, what can be seen by the eye or heard by the ear can be studied in the scriptures and treatises, but what about the basis of awareness itself? How do you study that? Read one more. It is called Just Being There. Just being there. How do you explain the logic of just being there? It's unavoidably hard to clarify. If you can clarify this, you will finally know that true reality is always there. Many Zen specialists say the mention itself is it. Then, what about when you're dying or too sick to speak? Is it necessary? It is necessary to penetrate this experientially before you will get it. Have you not read how the seeker asked Deshan, where have the ancient sages gone? Deshan said, what? What? Does that mean that what itself is the sages? You people either interpret literally or else fall into conventional echoes of what is said. If you don't fall into echo-like expressions, if you fall into wordlessness and speechlessness, this reality you actually cannot figure. This reality you actually cannot figure out by conceptual interpretations. If you keep any of that on your mind, it turns out into an inclination, alienating you from yourself. This reality you cannot actually figure by conceptual interpretations. If you keep any of that on your mind, it turns into an inclination, alienating you from yourself. Even if you try to attain harmony by means of mystic devices and wondrous doctrines, you will certainly be unable to do so. If you do not think at all, though, that won't work Either you must personally experience it before you will attain clear vision with no doubt. This one is called two sicknesses. When people today studying Zen learn it wrongly, it is because of no more than two sicknesses. One sickness is speechless, formless, motionlessness in the haunt of the mind-body complex, where you say, even if the Buddhas and Zen patriarchs came forth, I would still just be thus. Even if the Buddhas and Zen patriarchs came forth, I would still just be thus. This is one sickness. Next is to give recognition to that which speaks, hears, works, walks, stands, sits, and reclines. This is also a sickness. Do you know that activity is the root of suffering, sustained by the power of wind? If people can get away from these two sicknesses and can engage in total investigation, someday they should wake up. Otherwise, there is no cleaning things up. There are also two kinds of benefactors who speak bitterly as an expedient for two kinds of students. Students of one type make up rationales on their own and express things on their own, advancing and withdrawing, raising their fists and joining their palms, thinking this to be the way of Zen. Benefactors, seeing them this way, speak bitterly to them, saying, you have misunderstood. Why is your attention so fixated when there really is no problem? This is one kind of benefactor. Another type of student says, I do not understand. I do not know. Why? Because I am not tuned at all. Therefore, benefactors seeing people thus tell them, there is nothing the matter with you. Why do you seek to understand and tune in? This is another kind of benefactor. If both the former and latter types of students hear benefactors speaking like this and are able to turn their attention around and study through experience, they will inevitably attain clarification. If they just say they don't understand, they are creating their own stagnation. Even after 1,000 years, they would just be the same. Fortunately, you are in its very midst. If you go on saying you do not understand and seek to tune into it, when will you ever be done? Do you want to understand? You must not set up limited measurements. Do you want to understand? You must not set up limited measurements. You must apprehend it directly before you can get it. This one is called Stop Opinions. The third patriarch of Zen said, don't seek reality, just put a stop to opinions. He also said, as soon as there are judgments of right and wrong, the mind is lost in a flurry. These sayings teach you people of today what to work on. When you read his saying, don't seek reality, you say, there is no further need to seek. When you read his saying, don't seek reality, you say, there is no further need to seek. This means you are still entertaining opinions and are in the flurry of judgments. After all, you have not reached the state of mind where there is no seeking and are just making up an opinionated interpretation. Let me read this part again. The third patriarch of Zen said, don't seek reality, just put a stop to opinions. He also said, as soon as there are judgments of right and wrong, the mind is lost in a flurry. These sayings teach you people of today what to work on. When you read his saying, don't seek reality, you say, there is no further need to seek. This means you are still entertaining opinions and are in a flurry of judgments. After all of you have not reached the state of mind where there is no seeking and are just making up an opinionated interpretation. People who study Zen nowadays are all like this, reading a transformative saying and reaching an insight into the words and then try to apply it to all sayings, thinking they are all the same. Keeping this in their hearts, they think of it as their own attainment, far from realizing they have lost their minds by entertaining an opinionated understanding. They cling to it and will not let go. What ignoramuses! Would you like to attain a state of mind where you seek nothing? Just do not conceive all sorts of opinions and views. This non-seeking does not mean blanking out and ignoring everything. In everyday life, 24 hours a day, when there is unclarity in the immediate situation, it is generally because the opinionated mind is grasping and rejecting. How can you get to know the non-discriminatory mind then? How can you get to know the non-discriminatory mind then? Thus, when an ancient sage was asked if the created and the uncreated are different, he said, they are not. Sky and earth, rivers and seas, winds and clouds, grasses and trees, birds and beasts, people and things living and dying, changing right before our eyes, are all called created forms. The uncreated way is silent and unmoving. The indescribable and the unnameable is called the uncreated. How can there be no difference? Grandmaster Yongjia said, the true nature of ignorance is the very nature of enlightenment. The empty body of illusions and projections is the very body of realities. These two are each distinct. How do you not understand the logic of identity? You have to experience the mind without seeking. Then they will integrate, and you will get to be trouble-free. This one is called emancipation. In ancient times, a Zen worthy asked an old adept, "What is essential for emancipation?" The old adept said, "Fog is rising from your feet, Reverend." At these words, the Zen worthy suddenly got the message. In ancient times, a Zen worthy asked an old adept, "What is essential for emancipation, freedom?" And the old adept said, "Fog is rising from your feet, Reverend." At these words, the Zen worthy suddenly got the message. Do you know about emancipation? If you formulate the idea that you can understand, then you are blocked off from it. Do you know about emancipation? If you formulate the idea that you can understand, then you are blocked off from it. Later, another adept said, "I dare not turn my back on you, Master, for fog is rising from your feet." Then there is a story of when Wei Yuan Tong left Dongshan. Dongshan said, "Where are you going?" Dongshan said, "Where are you going?" Tong replied, "Into the mountains." Dongshan said, "Flying Monkey Ridge is steep, a fine sight." Tong hesitated. Dongshan said, "Reverend Tong." Tong responded, "Yes." Dongshan said, "Why don't you go into the mountains?" At these words, Tong suddenly got the message. The ancients were quite direct in their ways of helping others. Whenever people came to them, they would show them. In this case, he said he was going into the mountains. What does this mean? People today do not realize clearly, inevitably making an understanding. By a bit of understanding, they have blocked themselves off. People today do not realize clearly, inevitably making an understanding. By a bit of understanding, they have blocked themselves off. One can only investigate comprehensively through experience. One cannot understand just by intellectual interpretation. Once you have comprehended thoroughly with unified comprehension, you will no longer doubt. Okay, last one. I can see all of you getting tired a bit. So, this one is called not knowing. Sometimes, when I question students, they all say they do not know or understand. They just say they eat when hungry and sleep when tired. What redemption is there in such talk? Do you even say you are not cognizant of whether the month is long or short, and do not care whether it is a leap year? Who understands this affair of yours? Now I ask you, how do you explain the logic of not knowing? You hear others say this, you say it to yourselves. But have you ever understood the principle of not knowing? An ancient said, not knowing means nothing is not known, nowhere not reached. An ancient said, not knowing means nothing is not known, nowhere not reached. This is called unknowing, so that you people today may reach the unknown state. This is the realm of the sages. How could it be like the blindness and non-understanding that people today call not knowing? If you go on like this, always declaring you don't know and are not concerned, how will you communicate if someone questions you? There might be no one to continue on the road of Zen. It won't do to be like this. Make your choice carefully. Okay, so I lied, okay? Zen Zen sicknesses. Okay, I'll jump in. In my school, there are only two kinds of sickness. One is to go looking for a donkey, riding on the donkey. The other is to be unwilling to dismount once, having mounted the donkey. In my school, there are only two kinds of sickness. One is to go looking for a donkey, riding on the donkey. The other is to be unwilling to dismount once, having mounted the donkey. You say it is certainly a tremendous sickness to mount a donkey and then go looking for the donkey. I tell you that one need not find a spiritually sharp person to recognize this right away and get rid of this sickness of seeking, so the mad mind stops. Once you have recognized the donkey, to mount it and be unwilling to dismount it is the sickness that is most difficult to treat. I tell you that you need not mount the donkey, you are the donkey. The whole world is the donkey. How can you mount it? If you mount it, you can be sure the sickness will not leave. If you don't mount it, the whole universe is wide open. Once you have recognized the donkey, to mount it and be unwilling to dismount it is the sickness that is most difficult to treat. I tell you, you need not mount the donkey. You are the donkey. The whole world is the donkey. How can you mount it? If you mount it, you can be sure the sickness will not leave. If you don't mount it, the whole universe is wide open. When the two sicknesses are gone and there is nothing on your mind, then you are called a wayfarer. What else is there? That is why when Zhao Zu asked Nan Quan, what is the path? Nan Quan replied, the normal mind is the path. Now Zhao Zu said, suddenly stopped. His hasty search recognized the sickness of Zen masters and sickness of Buddhas and passed through it all. After that he travelled all over and had no peer anywhere because of his recognition of sicknesses. One day Zhao Zu went to visit Zhu Yu, where he paced back and forth, brandishing his staff from east to west and west to east. Zhu Yu asked, what are you doing? Zhao Zu replied, testing the water. Zhu Yu retorted, I haven't even one drop here. What will you test? Zhao Zu left, leaning on his staff. See how he revealed a bit of an example, really quite able to stand out. Zen followers these days all take sickness for truth. Best not to let your mind get sick. Okay, done. These are Zen lectures by Foyan, Foyan, and a book called Instant Zen. Got it? Didn't get it?
Which book was it?
It's called Instant Zen.
Okay, all the passages were
from there. Just, I was reading in no proper sequence, but
Okay.
yeah, they're all from here. Got it? Instant, no? Didn't get. It's such a small box. Such a small box. Then got it, didn't get it. But where is the seeker roaming? Seeker just roaming this tiny box. One day like this, one day like that, one day like this, one day like that. You see? Where are you? If you keep identifying with this one, you see, and then you're like he was saying, I was saying, how was midweek break? He said, bit of a roller coaster. You see? But can you actually get on a roller coaster? You see? Can you actually get on? But if you identify, then you're on. You see? To identify, you see? What is identity? Identity. In language also, funnily, there are a lot of clues. Identity is like a separate entity, id entity. So if you separate, if you discriminate, if you make distinctions, you see, then it can feel like you separated yourself from yourself, and you then get onto this roller coaster. You see? And what is the spiritual roller coaster? What are the boundaries of it? Just this. Got it, didn't get it. Got it, didn't get it. You see? That's all. And the minute you identify with that aspect, it can seem like that's it. To get it is my nirvana, to not get it is hell. You see? But you are not that. So I want to break you out of this groove, push you beyond these boundaries. So all these positions are the sicknesses that the master was talking about. This way or that way. What is outside this box? Are you inside or outside? You see? It's a trick question. You see, it's a trick question because I said break out of all these framing of opposites. And yet I say inside and outside. You see? And we buy into that framing in a way. Okay, so you see? So There is no meaning to inside and outside. There is no meaning in got it and didn't get it. But neither is it meaningless. How to cure you from this sickness? This kind of, it's just like that, like this, like this. What is the cure? The cure is just to be empty of conclusions, including this one. Allow this silly one to make these claims for now. You don't bother with them. Is it? So allow this deluded one to make these claims for now. Is it? You don't bother with them. The sage spoke about something very beautiful which I felt is pertinent also. Is it? Because we can come into this sort of mental not knowing. Is it? Yeah. Because we said to know even one thing is to know too much. We can get too much into the knowing of I don't know. Is it? Like all I know is I don't know. Is it? Like that. But I don't know. Is it? Like this kind of thing. So this is also to know too much. Even I don't know is to know too much. Is it? Here you are not lost. That is just an idea. The belief in the identity, even the seeker identity, is when you are lost. If the objective of the mind, in a way, is to make you lost, you see, then when it comes and says, but I am lost, you see, if you were really lost, then would it come complaining that I am lost? Because it's fulfilling its objective, you see, it would feel like very comfortable and confident and opinionated. You see? You see? Get it? So, in its complaint, I am lost. You see? Then how come it's not celebrating? You see? I'm asking you not to mind when you feel lost. Because it is a misinterpreted feeling.
Just don't believe. What do you say?
Yes, that's what it means, don't mind. Not to mind is the same thing. Stop grasping towards getting it. If it can be gotten, it is not it. And yet, if you haven't got it, it is not it. These are our boxes. I'm just exposing them, and at the risk of confounding you or confusing you in a way. But I'm just exposing our intellectual boxes. If you never lived in these prisons, if none of these boundaries apply to you, what would you say?
To whom?
You would say to whom?
Say to whom?
So you would say to whom? Or you would wonder.
I just wonder what they are, or what they meant.
What?
I said if you never lived in the prison out there, and you encountered one or whatever, you just wonder what it was. You'd probably say, I don't know what it is, I guess. If you never knew something, then you just don't know it.
What is beyond the opposites of knowing and not knowing?
Being.
Hmm?
Being.
Being?
Being meaning no.
Beyond being and not being? This is like you were demonstrating just now. I feel like in satsang sometimes we make this like being also too strong a position. Just like, but I'm being, but I'm being. It's like, come on, that's undeniable. Yes, I only came up with this question, can you stop being? But then it's like, becomes like you see, the thorn itself becomes the shield. Then we have to pull that out. You see, the thorn itself becomes the shield, like some sort of a defense. Are you not? Are you just being?
No, I don't know what being would mean. I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah.
See, that is better. Feel that lostness. It's good. You see, because our conclusions make us too opinionated, as the sage was saying, just to borrow his word. You see. And this is not true anyway that we are just being. And I'm not even saying in that direction, which is like we are always being something or something. I'm not talking about in that direction. I'm talking about in this direction. You see, prior to being. The seeming stress of not being able to conclude, if it still feels like stress to you, it is okay. And in a instant, the mind can make a move, you see. The me is back, I'm back. But notice your doubts, you see. Notice your doubts, because And notice they will follow a pattern like this. It will be, Satsang is great, but, you see, yes, right now I am free, but, you see, nothing ever meaningful has come out of the after that but, no matter how much you believe it. You see? Nothing meaningful has ever been spoken after that framing. Yes, right now, no person, but, and we feel like something as relevant as we said before the but is coming after it. You see? It's just story. And the ridiculousness of the story is apparent to you because you could say this every right now. Right now there is no person. It's just like saying, if you were to expand on what we usually buy into, is right now there is no person. But what about that non-existent one in my projections? What to do with that? Because in every right now you could say this. So even in our manifest existence, there is never the experience of this person. You see, so then what are we asking? We are coming to the doctor and saying, I have no illness right now, but in my mind there is a possibility that there could be, you see, some cancer or something. What can I do to treat that? Or what can you do to treat that? Because there is no illness. You see? You see? And then you might say, then, like, take away this power of projecting, you see. But if it was taken away, how would we meet in this way? Like, she made a request that day, like, I'm paraphrasing what she said, but suppose, so, like, you take care of it, you see. So, done. So, I don't want to have these projections anymore. You see? Then what is all this? It's also projection. So to take the content of the projection itself as reality and then say within the projection should not be there anymore. Within the projection, within the dream should stop. You see? So that's why, as I've been pushing you out of this paradigm that you are here in this way anyway. You see? That you are here in this way anyway. That any of this is tangible anyway. Because all of this movement only happens once we give this some reality to this, just a thought. Just a thought. In fact, we can go as far as to say that everything which comes and goes is just a thought. Everything that comes and goes is just a thought. You see, broadening the definition of thought, using the broader definition of mind. But it couldn't hurt once you see that all these interpretations are just thoughts. You will also see that what we make to be the so-called phenomenal reality is also just a thought. So this is the pretense which I want to break you out of. Is it? Like too much credence to this phenomenal appearance, is it? And the request within the phenomenal appearance being, rid me of this. Within the dream character within the dream should be freed from their delusion. But that one is itself the delusion, you see? That one itself is the delusion. How to say? Mm. Simple way is to say that whatever you can consider yourself to be, you cannot be. Whatever you can consider yourself to be, you cannot be. Because even that will be stuck in this, or the highest and the lowest. It's a very tiny box for you in reality. What is the highest you can consider yourself to be? You know, come on. Huh? Everything, is it? Everything good. Or the absolute, or the self, or awareness, is it? Something. You see, what is the lowest?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No,
Is it?
donkey.
No, no what? Like no quality is nothing? Like what is nothing?
Worthless.
Huh?
Worthless.
Huh?
Maybe worthless. Like
Worthless. Oh, okay, that's a different
low,
nothing.
when you
Okay.
said low.
Worthless is another way of looking at it. But when you say nothing, we're saying like we have no, like no entity, no existence. You see, no tangibility. That way, nothing. You see? So between that everything and nothing, you see? Now, besides that, on top of that everything, what is it? Beyond that everything. This is where the mind will protest, you see. Observe this. Observe this moment, even if it is irritating the hell out of you. You see, observe it. Because I'm saying that if you put everything in the definition of everything in the definition of everything, I'm still asking what is beyond that everything.
That which knows it.
You see, okay, now you put that which knows it also in that everything, put that which knows it also in that everything, and I'm still asking what is beyond that. Huh?
It's like that irritation, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Observe that it's because it was the same as what's before being or non-being.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and then
But that is also practice now, because we've heard
Yeah.
this from Maharaj, we've heard Guruji saying before I am.
yeah.
So that is not causing enough irritation, so I have to change that
Yeah,
to a
man.
new thing. But then, of course, before I am. Huh?
No,
Really,
I
like
guess
that.
it's-
But I'm saying, so now everything is included in everything. Now what is more than that? He said also, we've learned this over the years that, okay, but that which knows it, that which sees it, that which is aware of it, all of that is also included. Now, what is more than that? I am also, now include that in everything. I am, you see, like this also included in everything, even this I am, whatever you consider I am to be, included in that. And I'm still asking. And the same on the other side. Like this nothing has nothing. It includes nothing. You see? There is nothing in it. You see? But what is smaller than that? Watch what happens. Just watch for yourselves.
trying to compare.
Still trying to compare, still trying to understand, is it? But you can also not take this position that he's purposely doing this because actually he's just showing us that we cannot understand, so I'm not even playing with this stuff. You see? Some of you are playing that way. You see? I'm saying, but what is greater is like, yeah? It's like, so what is smaller than nothing? I am not falling into his trap. Like that, you see? But I want you to really check. What is smaller than that which already is nothing?
It's an illogical question, Father. I mean, it's a nothing. How can there something be smaller than nothing?
So this is you have to observe this stuff.
Yeah.
You see? Because it is okay, I don't know whether I should say so much, but okay, let me say. So it is this stuff, you see, like for example logic, which defines your boundaries.
Yeah.
You see, what is logic?
I mean,
It defines what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is not. You see?
it defines within the parameters of language or meaning.
But did I say to check within the parameters of language and meaning what is smaller than nothing?
No, you didn't. But it was like a default. It goes that way. Right?
Yeah, so you observe this.
Yeah.
That the fight will come and say, but that doesn't make any sense. You see?
Yeah.
And yet, I am asking you to look. The whole reason I am asking you to look is because I know it makes no sense. If you were still to play in the boundaries of only that which makes sense, you see, then these boundaries are well defined by intellect. We never need to come to Satsang actually. What is greater than everything and yet smaller than nothing?
It doesn't go in the box of everything or nothing.
What doesn't?
What makes this conclusion? I don't know. What sees that like?
Yeah. Now, whatever we perceive or understand or know about what sees all of this, you see, put that also in the box of everything. Geese has flown yet? The goose has flown?
Whatever answer we'll give to this will also be in the conceptual framework of it.
So greater than everything
Yeah.
and smaller than nothing.
Nothing.
Whatever the mind will come up with the answer as, that will also be
In the everything.
in the
Is it?
conceptual.
Now, is the mind all that you have?
No.
Okay. So where else can the answer come from?
Beyond mind.
Huh? What is beyond mind? So we said everything included, including the one that sees, that knows, that understands, even the one that we think is always here, does not come and go, is the unchanging self. All of this, everything is included in everything. What is greater than that?
There is no word for that.
Even that one for which there is no word. I'm going to make a screen room instead of the library, because nobody uses the library anyway, so we just soundproof. We can make it a studio come screaming room. Yes, possible. So we just put you said some material is available, we can block after that area. You see, what is getting attacked? You see, what is getting attacked? Something very fundamental gets poked in this kind of thing. Like the if you were 1 year old, it would not attack you. You see? So what grew up?
Father, for me, it doesn't really feel like an uncomfortable feeling to be looking. Actually, I know you're talking about frustration, but I rather see is that, I don't even know. It's just the limitations of the mind, and that's it. I can't say like what's above or what's beyond, because it's just the limitations. I think that's what's getting obvious, and then even if I would try to, see what's greater than the greatest, it just always points again to it's the limitations of the mind. There's just nothing I can know beyond, or it's just not possible. And in a way, it comforts me.
In a way, it is fine. In a way, what to say is fine, but that which cannot be known by the mind, you see, that which cannot be known by the mind, that is also included in everything. Do you?
No, but I mean...
No, I'm not saying it's good news or bad news. I'm just asking, is this true?
I don't know, but with your question, I just got into the box. I don't want to be in the box.
Yeah, this one included in the everything.
This is trash.
Yeah. This one that wants or doesn't want is included in the everything.
There is please have a soundproof room,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. This I, is it? This I is the one we have to.
Just throw it out. Just help. I don't know. Father, there is a tendency to label it when you ask, when you literally provoke like that.
Yeah.
There is a tendency to tag it and even say that there is no word for it. Even that is a tag
yes,
on that.
exactly.
So, but even without that, it is obvious. You don't have to literally put a name for it and know it mentally in a way.
Should I poke more or no? No. It can be also enough for the day, it's fine. I'm happy to rest whichever point you feel like it is enough.
Poke more.
More.
For a second there, when I was trying to include all of it, including the fact that I was looking for this.
Yes.
For a second there, the whole thing just stopped and I was just alert. And it, and then that expression was noticeable too. So for a second there, the whole searching stopped for a second.
Should I poke more or no?
Something is getting exposed to it, becoming visible.
Actually, I have to say that it's not fun to see any of you crying, but also I don't feel bad about it because there's a sense here that I'm freeing you from the clutches of a thief. Because I feel like I'm freeing you from the clutches of a con man or a thief. You see? So, although it can feel like something worthwhile is being lost, and it can seem like some cause for grief, and I can feel some in my heart, some not liking seeing my children cry, but sometimes as parents you have to do these things. Just like you see? And these things can be especially seem painful when it starts to feel like, but I was getting somewhere. You see? It's like, just like when I was getting somewhere, he comes and says like that. You see? It's like, but now I'm worse than square one. You see? So this self-concern, you see, this apparent self-concern, this checker guy, this one who plays as you, is not you, it's just the idea of you.
Father, does it always have to be like painful and stuff like that? Like poking and oh my God, it's trouble
No.
on fire, because that's like the kind of cliche.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's, then if we feel bad, oh yeah, we're on fire. It's a
Yeah.
good thing. You're
Yeah.
focused, but maybe just
Yeah. It doesn't have to be.
to.
It doesn't have to be, but it is not uncommon. You see.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be any which way. Like I keep saying, there is no template for freedom. There is no this, then this, then this. But many times you can say that, and many times then we'll be speaking in Satsang, some of you can relate to the symptoms, some of you can't. You see? And that's fine. You see? So this is like a quick expression of that roller coaster thing, right? That got it and didn't get it. Yeah, getting it. And the master comes and how dare he? Yeah.
It made the seeking very visible.
Seeking, yeah, this is it. Because what is our ailment right now? Number one ailment for all of us is the seeker identity. Is it? But our ploys will not work. Like our tactics will not work. So if you say, I see that my number one identity is the seeker identity. So actually, if I stop seeking, then is when I will get it. You see, that is still the seeker. You see? So we can't just say, stop seeking or keep seeking. Because that is also advice for you to as to how to get it. You see? So if we have a ploy like that which says, I see that my seeker does not actually find. So if I, then I stop the seeker, stop playing the seeker, then I will find. But that is still the seeker, still trying to find. I don't know why I'm saying find. You see? Like I can either get it by getting it, or I can get it by giving up. Is both the same thing.
Because that I can get it still
It's still
exists.
the ploy of getting it, is it? It's still in that roller coaster. It's still in that box. So this is the same way where we talk about dissolution of the ego also. Like our ploys don't work. If it was as simple as these simple ploys, then it could just work. You see? Our ploys are like, I can transcend the ego by killing it, you see, or by destroying it, or I can be rid of the ego by loving it, you see. But the wanting to be rid of something is not really love, then it's just a ploy, it's just a pose. You see? So the truth is not to be found in these boxes. Our greatest tactics mean nothing. What are you then left with? If your experiences, perceptions, if your perceptual experiences mean nothing, if your conceptual things, either positions mean nothing, are you now left fully empty? Where are you now? Where are you now? Thank you so much for being in Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba ki
Jai. Sadguru Shri Ananta Ji ki Jai.
Guru Kripa Kevalam.